Welcome to 360 Sports Network. I'm Alex Laverson, and with me is James Dotson again. What an eventful Selection Sunday it has been. A lot of scrutiny. The committee members are under a lot of scrutiny right now. Teams such as UAB got in over more deserving teams such as Virginia Tech and Colorado. We'll get into that. At a quick glance, my Final Four consists of Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, Ohio State, and Duke. Dotson, how's your bracket looking?
Hopefully in a couple weeks it'll be looking with a lot of circles around it and not a lot of red, crossing out teams that lose. My Final Four, I have Ohio State facing Texas, and I have Kansas versus Pitt.
Now, I must say, why do you have Texas in your Final Four? I'm not sure if many people at all will put them in there.
Well, they definitely did not look good in their championship game against Kansas. However, I just look at the matchups. Honestly, the Oakland matchup kind of scares me, just the way Oakland plays. But beyond that, I think Texas can take Arizona or Memphis easily. I think they match up well against a Duke team. Texas will be physical and can battle with Duke. And then no matter who comes out of the bottom half, UConn, San Diego State, Missouri, Cincinnati, no matter who you're looking at down there, I think they have great matchup ability. Most likely against UConn, they can play good defense against Kemba Walker. So that's what I'm looking at with Texas, but we'll get more into that here as we go along.
What can you tell us about the East region? What sticks out to you the most?
I would say what sticks out to me the most is where the Big East comes in this one. You see Villanova, a 9 seed, West Virginia, a 5 seed, Marquette, an 11 seed, Syracuse, a 3 seed. Having 4 Big East teams in one region is potentially problematic. I mean, you could have essentially all 4, or you could have 3 of the 4 Big East teams all making it to the Sweet 16. So I just think it's going to be interesting to look at what the Big East is going to come out of there.
All right, so you said you had Texas coming out of the West, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, what is the one particular matchup that could cause Texas a problem?
Obviously, the most obvious one is Duke, just because of their great perimeter play. And then obviously, from what I saw, especially today against North Carolina, their ability to drive to the rim and then dish out for wide open threes in the corner. But if Texas can use their size to their advantage and their quickness, I think that they can play tough defense against Duke.
I had Connecticut originally at first glance winning the West, but the more I think about it, the more I think UConn might be tired after winning 5 games in a row in the Big East tournament. Of course, they got the great Kemba Walker. Do you think Connecticut really has a chance at all of coming out of there? They are, for being a 3 seed, not many people are giving them too much a chance. What does Connecticut have to do to get out of that region?
They need to play great team basketball. They need to go beyond just Kemba Walker. Honestly, when I first looked at the brackets ready to fill it out, I immediately penciled in UConn, but then I erased them and took a couple minutes to look at this matchup because Bucknell is a fast-paced team. If they can run up and down the court against Connecticut, and we saw it a couple years ago with Syracuse after playing 4 or 5 games in the Big East tournament. Everybody expected them, including myself, to make it to the Final Four or to the finals. They were too worn out, ended up losing in the first or second round. So I'm very lenient to advance Connecticut very far. It's possible they could go to the Final Four championship game. It's possible they can lose in the first round. This is a very interesting matchup and a very interesting West bracket.
Now, I agree with you for the most part. I mean, I don't think they'll lose to Bucknell. But let's switch it over to Penn State. Penn State's finally made the tournament in 10 years. Ironically enough, the last time they were in the tournament, they got beat by Temple, and who they're playing now. What does this NCAA tournament do for Penn State's program, and how far can you see Penn State going in the West?
It's an absolute awesome experience and awesome moment for Penn State basketball. Like you said, first time in 10 years that Penn State has made the tournament, and you can see from their recruits over the past 10 years just how much this is needed. After winning the NIT 2 years ago, even that sort of helped the recruits, getting a Tim Frazier to come to Penn State. But just making the tournament and seeing caliber players like Jeff Brooks and Taylor Battle just can get more national notoriety, national exposure, and can hopefully bring more recruits in for the next year. As for how far Penn State can go, I really think they get a favorable matchup against Temple. Penn State can slow the game down against Temple, and I think that they have a very, very good chance of pulling off the upset in the first round. Beyond that, though, you definitely have some issues because they're playing against San Diego State, which is the most high-power offense I see in the entire tournament.
I'm going to stop you real quick.
Yes.
Our own Greg Bracero actually had San Diego State winning the title. When he told me that, I was kind of like, are you kidding me? I mean, yeah, San Diego State, they're a 2 seed. They have a great record, but they're not from a very prestigious conference. Do you think Greg's a little far off on this, or do you think he's onto something?
I think he could be onto something, and the Mountain West isn't exactly a pushover conference. I think they ended up as the number 3 or 4 conference in terms of RPI for the year. The only issue is San Diego State has one win against a top 25 opponent, BYU, in the Mountain West Championship game, after BYU had lost one of their top players due to the honor code issue. So the thing with San Diego State is they can score lots of points, but they can probably also give up a lot of points. What I'm interested to look at, especially if there is a Penn State-San Diego State matchup, is what type of game will be played. Can San Diego State push the tempo for the entire game, or can Penn State play their slow-down offense? And, well, I doubt they'll be able to play a game 36-33 again against San Diego State, but if they can play their game and force the tempo against San Diego State, honestly, I'd give Penn State a very good shot just because of their ability to direct how the flow of the game is going to go.
Yeah, with Penn State, I can see them losing to Temple. I can see them going all the way to the Elite Eight. I think the West is wide open. Although I have Duke winning the West, I'm not so sure they're the most dominant team in that region. But let's go over to the Southwest, actually. Kansas is a 1 seed, Notre Dame's a 2 seed, and I have Notre Dame winning this region. But you're not so sold on Notre Dame. Why is that?
Notre Dame, quite simply, they still have proven to me that they can live and die by their jumper. You saw it against Louisville. They didn't shoot well from outside. They lost in the end. So I look at them actually losing in the Sweet 16 to Purdue just because Purdue is a very balanced team and a very consistent team. And I just don't see Notre Dame going much further than that because I feel that unless they're shooting well from the outside, there's not going to be much luck for the Irish.
Now, when I pick Notre Dame to win the region, it's not like I picked them convincingly, like at first glance I automatically put them in. I know if they get to the Elite Eight, Kansas is a tough matchup, but I think teams with star players go far in the tournament. Ohio State with Sullinger, I think, is going to go far, and I like Ben Hansbrough a lot.
Yeah, Ben Hansbrough is, Big East Player of the Year, and maybe not deserving after seeing what Kemba Walker did. But yeah, you're definitely right on. If Hansbrough can go and pull a Stephen Curry type moment, yeah, you can see Notre Dame going far. Just you saw what happened when Hansbrough didn't have a good game. Notre Dame fell along with him.
Now, we have a hometown hero representing NC in this bracket, Steve McNeese from Akron. Is there any chance you think Akron upsets Notre Dame?
Well, I think when you have Notre Dame, like I said, with the outside shooting, any game you could have them struggling from the outside, but I still think there's too much talent on Notre Dame to have McNeese and Akron pull off any sort of upset here. I know they were your upset pick, Alex, but like you said, you have Notre Dame going to the Final Four, so I'm pretty sure you're not going for the McNeese upset either.
Well, me picking Akron, that's more of wishful thinking than anything, I think. I'd like to see a smaller school go far, but yeah, I have Notre Dame winning this region.
I think the game could be close for a while, though, if Akron plays with the heart that you saw in the MAC championship game.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a game. Emotions were high. You could especially tell after that fight after the end of the game. Yeah. But all right, let's move on to the Southeast. Now, this is an interesting one for Pitt fans. People are split on this, 50-50 it seems. Myself, I think this is the best chance Pitt has to get to the Final Four. I think if they don't win this weak bracket, then I don't know when they'll ever go. But you think this bracket is strong? Why is that?
I I think there's a lot of upset potential in this bracket. I see a lot of very quality mid-major teams, especially. Butler and Old Dominion. I've had both of those going in before seeing the brackets. I thought both of those teams could easily pull off upsets in an 8 or 9 area, and possibly, depending on who they played with a number 1 or 2 seed, that they could pull off an upset there. I said going into this, Old Dominion was a team to watch out for, and I stand by that. If Pitt plays Old Dominion second round, that's going to be an awesome ball game to watch. But then you also look just in the top half of the bracket. Kansas State has been tough here lately. Utah State only with 3 losses on the year. I don't care who they played all year. If you're 30-3, you're a team to be reckoned with, and them being a 12 seed is going to be interesting. And then Wisconsin coming out of the Big Ten, always going to play tough. You could see a possible Big Ten, Big East blood bash in the Sweet 16. And even Belmont, 30-4, another team I'm possibly looking at upsetting Wisconsin. So just the top half is strong enough, and not to mention having to go through Billy Donovan in Florida, or Jimmer Fredette and BYU, or possibly having to face St. John's again if they make it. There's just a lot of possibility in this bracket for some interesting outcomes.
Well, a few things. I think Wisconsin isn't a scary team as it once was, especially after only putting up 33 against Penn State. St. John's, I'm kind of iffy on them. I want to have them go far with all the upsets they have, but yeah, they don't beat anyone outside the Garden. But at the same time, I have them playing BYU. BYU had that one player get suspended, and now just for that. And I'm not so sure he can put up 52 points against Big East type of defense. And Florida, they're kind of an overrated number 2 seed in my opinion, but they have Billy Donovan. He knows how to win championships, obviously. He's won two national titles. But as far as Pitt goes, I just think Pitt's the strongest team in that bracket, convincingly. At first glance, there's a lot of schools from conferences that aren't that prestigious. I mean, they play the winner of Butler. Butler's not the same Butler they have been. They've lost to YSU this season. The old Butler wouldn't have even put it up when they wouldn't have even made it a close game. As far as Utah State, yeah, they are kind of a better than a 12 seed. And as far as anyone else, I just think this is the best chance Pitt has. If they don't get it done here, I don't know when they will.
Yeah, I think you're definitely on something there. It depends on how you look at it, because, yeah, Florida I definitely look at as the weakest 2 seed in the bracket. I definitely see BYU probably as the weakest 3 seed in the bracket, and Wisconsin arguably the weakest 4 seed. I look at Kentucky as being the only one that Wisconsin could possibly be better than. But then you look, like I said, and then you have the mid-majors, and I'll tell you what, in this tournament, anybody can win on any given day. I think the 1 seeds may be safe in the first round. Beyond that, I don't trust anybody.
Let's talk about some of the teams that did not make it into the tournament. I felt like Colorado should have made it in. I felt like Virginia Tech should have made it in. I have no idea why UAB made it in. What can you say about this? Do you think it's just a case of strong RPI getting teams in, or what? UAB has not even been mentioned once as a bubble team. So I don't see how they even got in. What's your take on it, Dawson?
Yeah, I'm looking through some of the big names that didn't get in: Colorado, Alabama, Virginia Tech, St. Mary's, even Boston College. And you look at what they have in common is a higher RPI. You got St. Mary's at the 48, but everybody else is in the 50s, 60s, or 80s. So I definitely, it does look like the committee favored the RPI a lot this year, which is very sad, because the RPI is one of the most unreliable, in my mind, terms of how to analyze a team. UAB, for example, they ended up making the tournament, but they were 31st in the RPI, but I don't understand how they could have been. They had a 22-8 record and a 77 in their strength of schedule before all the games today. So how they could end up in with that sort of resume and no big wins when you had a team like Colorado with beating Kansas State 2 or 3 times and an RPI much higher, 66 RPI, which again isn't very indicative. Colorado is a big loser here. Virginia Tech had a big win against Duke early on in the year. You also look at strength of schedule, though, of these teams. Colorado's a 70, Virginia Tech's an 88, Alabama's a 136, St. Mary's 105. So you look, even does strength of schedule play into a bigger factor? But again, UAB and Virginia Commonwealth, they didn't have any better strength of schedule either. So I honestly don't see... UAB and VCU were not on my radar. They weren't on anybody from ESPN's radar from the sounds of things.
So what should teams learn from this in terms of scheduling and things of that nature? Does it seem like the committee has any type of certain criteria, or is it just something that's kind of out in the air, or what?
I think what you can learn from this is that every year something different is going to happen. You don't know what is going to be favored or not favored, and until there's a specific formula, BCS, if you want to really talk about it, I hate saying that, but until you get something concrete formula that can actually tell you what's going on, and that's what the league's going to go by, then I don't know what you can do. I think you can definitely see from Alabama that you still need to get a good non-conference schedule. Killed Penn State 2 years ago, and I think that's what kept Alabama out, even though they won their division in the SEC. So I think teams just have to continue to learn that you got to win a good amount of games. You don't need to win all your games, but you need to at least make a decent strength of schedule for your non-conference games.
Before we wrap it up, who wins the national championship?
Well, I have Ohio State beating Texas, and I have Kansas beating Pitt. And that leaves me with a Kansas-Ohio State championship game. And it's going to be Jared Sullinger and Diebler outside for Ohio State versus the Morris brothers inside for Kansas. I think the Morris brothers can easily contain Sullinger and force Ohio State to play just from the outside. And if so, I think Kansas wins that matchup easily. I think Kansas wins by double digits in the championship game.
I have Ohio State over Notre Dame. I'm probably going to change my bracket. I tend to a lot. Another thing I wanted to point out, though, is West Virginia in the East bracket. I actually think they can make a very, very deep run. I think for the most part, their team's intact. The same team from last year. They have Huggins. They know what it takes to get to the Final Four. But we don't want to revisit the East, but I just want to lay that out there. So, yeah, I'll probably... Go on.
You want to talk about that? I'm still looking at whether or not I like West Virginia winning their first round matchup. I think UAB and Clemson both would match up pretty well with West Virginia. And that just shows again how, I don't want to say how weak this field is, but again how even the field is top to bottom, that any given team can win pretty much any matchup.
All right, well, that basically wraps it up. Thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in to this Selection Sunday special. We will be posting the bracket challenge on our website, so everyone can check it out. Like I said on last broadcast, it's run through Yahoo, so you need a Yahoo ID and everything like that. So the first 2 winners will get gift cards. It's free admittance, so I'm not sure what gift cards yet, but hey, a gift card's a gift card, so you guys better enjoy it. But all right, everyone, thank you.